So here we are in game 4, and here is against a Kushan army, which is quite unusual. I'm even though it's a few weeks ago since I did this, I'm vaguely struggling to remember this. It must have been the 4th game of the day, and feeling slightly under the weather. 4 games in a day is quite a lot, but it looks like I've done my kind of novelty trick here of remembering that we're starting to get to grips with the army, perhaps realizing that it does need a slightly narrower table to do its kind of fill the table with stuff and make the opponent deal with it kind of approach. So I dropped down a river, and with this command I think it's got the Galatians in it, but it's the one with a couple of extra light troops. Actually no, this is the cavalry command who doesn't really fit on this table particularly well. So I put the cavalryman here and the 2 light horse there just to distract and do that thing with people not necessarily being used to rivers. And this may even have been a difficult river, but it's still only 2 base widths wide, so it's still possible for light cavalry to get across it. You can't really ignore it. It's not an impassable obstacle at all. So that's just to sort of create a bit of distraction. So the Kushans have got 2 kind of Indian elephanty type commands, elephants and the mixed bow swordsman there. Got a block of cataphracts, not too many of them actually for some Kushan armies. And then sort of over here where there's all sorts of odds and sods of terrain, there's some medium cavalry, bow, horse archers in penny packets that are pretty well spread out. So I've got the Galatians here. I'm kind of expecting them to have anchored stuff here. So I just want to get the Galatians, the pike and the cataphracts into this kind of space. This bit of rough is an obvious home for the Thracians to try and go into. And the Romans are not too bad in it. You know, they're down 1 because it's rough terrain, but they've still got impact. They're still solid foot. They're still 4 to a base. And then that leaves a sort of pikeman and me kind of stretching out here to neutralize these stretched out cavalry as well. And then a couple of cavalry in this command over on that side as well. The bowmen are being safely shepherded between some spearmen and some legionaries. The side chariot is kind of there. That's going to have to fill in. This is a bit of a reserve. So let's see how this all pans out. So this is really rush forward, get over that bit of terrain here with the heavy infantry as soon as I can, because I don't really want to fight these guys in it while I'm at a disadvantage. Pushing the pikemen towards the cataphracts, bringing the side chariot up. It's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. Get a line, just get forwards, try and fight them in the open rather than fight them in the rough. On the other side, really just trying to neutralize this stuff. So I've got to keep these here to attack the Indian sort of command. That I think is the vulnerable bit, which means this pike unit can go there on its own. This little block protecting the bowmen with heavy foot either side of it. They want to try and pin these guys in here. Going first is a big advantage. They're almost going hunting. Those 2 light horse, we really don't want them to squirt out around here. And this is just sort of playing catch up. It looks like a pretty good set of first pips for me to get all this stuff across quite this far across the table. So the Kushans kind of inch forwards. They're not doing too much here. They're just leveling up. They've got into this rough terrain, which there's 3 of them. It's going to be more than my Thracians. But because they're shoving all this forward, there's a lot of troops a long way away. I think they're struggling for command and control to keep everything all moving up. And I'll just pin them in, and they're kind of teed up for a fight, really. This is probably one they don't want, but they've just got to maximise shooting. So my 2 penny packets of light horse race down here, and already they're forcing some of the these are light infantry at the moment to go and go, oh, we've got to stand on the edge of this terrain. We can't have them eating our baggage. So points that this commander's got no real function on this table. I guess I could have stuck them over on the other side, but they might get bogged down in terrain anyway. So they're just chewing pips, chewing command and control off this side of the enemy army, and maybe stripping out some reserves as well, as they're forcing them to deal with the possibility of light horse coming across this river. So much of the muchness here, starting to get into shooting range, just getting a bit closer. These cavalry are inching forwards, but it's quite a lot to do, and I am pinning them back quite quickly. So here, everybody's got through this bit of terrain. That's the important thing. The Galatians are the right size, but these guys have driven off, or possibly I just didn't have the pips to keep these guys in front. Maybe there's not enough space. Suddenly you do realize these have to go full speed ahead, otherwise it's extra pips because they're impetuous troops. So for some reason I'd lost the ability to keep these light infantry in between to act as a shooting screen. So the Galatians are going to rely on their superiority and their bravery, clearly not their well padded clothing. to deal with this Indian shooting and take whatever comes, and then pikemen and spearmen hopefully facing off against cataphracts and my own cataphracts as well. Looks like there's a bit of shooting from this block has already started to happen. So here, again, threatening two places, cause more problems. If I go into the bowman, these can still get all the way across there and be an overlap. This light horse is going to have to deal with the threat of this guy here. All he's got to do is sit there as a reserve and wait for them, or spend pips on them to just cause a threat. So over here, not a lot else has really happened. I think both sides have become a little bit becalmed. The action's going on somewhere else. This general's just not quite sure what to do about this really, and I think those light horse are just staying very safely out of it. So we're getting really close now. We've got the Galatians getting close. I think we may even have charged in here just to do it, because I don't think the Indians would have done it. And pikemen into cataphracts is a little bit risky, but those pikemen are still on +2, and I've got reserves, and I've got to initiate this combat. This chewing up these mediocre mixed spear bow guys with my impetuous troops and my heavy spear. It's worth taking on that elephant 4. It's probably worth this slightly lottery-ish combat against those as well, because knocking the hole in these is where you suddenly start to roll up the flank with a bit of luck if you do go through them. Over here, looks like the cavalry are starting to try and threaten. I'm having to spread out even more. These Romans have become detached from the bowmen, but they're just really there to try and pin these guys, stop them getting through these gaps. They'll fall back. We just want nothing to happen really here. And in the middle, where my Thracians were ready to go into the field, I just don't have enough light troops. They're over there extending that other line as well, and I'm getting peppered by archery and picking up an awful lot of markers, including the elite cataphracts as well, which is not great. But so these guys are just going to have to get in very, very quickly before they just take any more hits. So what goes on here? Whoosh, yep, the light horse do come over and join in. The Galatians do go in, but these guys seem to be surviving at the moment. The combat has been initiated, and combat is initiated. I've got a bit of an overlap because these are sort of slightly staggered. Where do they end up? They don't want to come too far forwards. They give away an overlap somewhere. So this is okay. This is the combat I want. This is the combat I want. It's not great. This is pretty reasonable. Better because of the overlap. Still try and put the pressure on this bit here. Over on this side, these guys have clearly got becalmed. I'm trying to pin them with heavy infantry. That caused them a big problem. Gives them a big threat here. They're going to have to bug out now. Really, just because I've got more units moving around, and I think they've had just unfortunately poor command and control. So into combat here. This doesn't look like it's worked really well. These guys have not taken any more hits, which is all right. I can't see anything over there. I think that's the umbrella. It's not a marker. This cataphract may well have taken a couple of hits, but here that's 2 hits for me, 2 hits. That's 1 hit. This isn't working as well as it should do. These should be like squishy stuff, really, for me to get in, but it's not working that way. Yeah, those guys have had to bug out. They've kind of been driven away by the archery. This is hopefully starting to be a bit of a nothing part of the table here. And Bosch, the elephant has won. It's crushed the Galatians in very short order. But as is the case with an elephant, when it wins, it has to step forward. So it's suddenly stepped forward through this gap in my line. And here, this is where the light infantry are now actually waiting for it. I've got a light infantry javelinman, an extra overlap here. He'll be able to go in. So suddenly this elephant's exposed. It's that new version, well, new, several years old now, version 4 thing where elephants need their supporting troops to go through. And there's just a bit of a desperate struggle here going on. Looks like a cataphract has been killed there. This one's taken a hit, but this one is still fighting despite having guys in the flank. It looks like the Indians have sent troops over the river, and they're going to try and come back now. So there's a lot of river crossing going on here. In the middle, the same thing has happened. The elephant has steamrolled, trampled through some of the Thracians. It looks like my elite cataphract may have gone as well. This is all going a bit pear-shaped, but as the elephant steps forward, my Romans have killed the supporting bowman on that side, and he comes forward in his turn, and I can now turn onto his flank. The pikemen have just kept all these other people honest. These can keep each other honest, and he's just now in a good position to cause a lot of problems as these guys expand. And look, Bosch, there he goes. He's turned, he's taken the elephant. Looks like my Thracian has been killed here, but this guy's kind of coming to help. And suddenly there's a big gap with almost nothing of them in. And with the elephant being killed, suddenly this becomes much, much more exposed. My cataphract is still there. Whoever he's beaten, that's it. There may be a gap in front of that pikeman, but we're relying on the legions to be better than these mediocre swordsmen, even in this terrain. What's going on here? This fight is still going on. This mediocre overlapped against elite troops. Swordsman, bowman now taken 2 hits. This guy's still only taken 1. But look, there's the light infantry gone into the elephant. Javelin, double overlaps. That's as good as it gets for an elephant. And here we're still fighting away against this one, taking some losses. But even if a catastrophe was to befall them, these guys can still come in. I've still got a reserve here. It is just application of maximum force on as small a possible area as I can get, and really just trying to pick on, bizarrely, the ones which are still standing should be the weak link, but they're not. What's going on here? Yes, that's finally gone. So suddenly the Galatians are here. The elephant's still in play. My light horse is now free to start coming round and start doing clever stuff. These guys have had to deal with my Romans in the terrain, which has left sort of a gap there. So suddenly it starts to look, 1 cataphract there outnumbered, 1 cataphract out there outnumbered. What's going to happen here? We're really starting to chew them up. This guy can't ride his luck for much longer, and he doesn't. He goes down, bang, into the flank of the elephant as well. The light cavalry come across. They're going into the sides and the back of people as well, and the collapse is on now. This wave of troops, some of them coming across the wave, some of them, the infantry, finally, eventually won a battle they perhaps should have won much quicker, to just really crush this in the, they're against the anvil and they're being crushed in the vice of the Galatians coming through that side. Over here, again, very little still happening. These guys have sort of come back and had another go, but nobody can really stand against this bowman. As long as I can kind of keep them occupied, there's just too many threats, and these are not really troops who want to be in combat. The scythe chariot's chasing some of them away. The pikeman's still engaged, but not worried about this. We want to do stuff in the middle of the table. And here's the middle of the table. You can just see the Galatians doing the whole Pac-Man thing now. They've taken out the other one. They've taken out the elephant. They're now taking out the cataphract. Scythe chariot's gone in finally against some troops. These guys are fighting, I think they might be fighting light infantry now in terrain. They've clearly killed away those bowmen. So suddenly this was 4 cataphracts. It was 2 units of Indian mixed troops here as well. This was the real punching power of the army. But because I've been able to force my way through here and do a lot of damage there early on, it's just rolling that lump up from both sides really, while it just can't break through the resolute pikemen in that centre there, and those gaps are really just starting to appear. Here we sort of feels like we're getting into the end game. We're corralling everything together, but really this is just about how can I get a bowman and a support shooting against medium cavalry in a formation that they don't really want to come in as a single. No matter where they go, they'd end up with multiple overlaps. They just want to try and get away from the shooting. This may even be a mountainous terrain, quite possibly. That might be a difficult hill. And these guys are coming, even if something did go wrong, they could fill in. We're just trying to chip away the last couple of points here for this army. And here it goes probably again. That's another cataphract gone. We're chasing light horse off left, right and centre. Now this whole main strike force is pretty much 1 cataphract and a light infantryman, which is nothing. There was a whole line of powerful combat troops and a huge lot of points there, but it's just all gone. So chariot is chasing people off the table there as well. And here we go. Finally, the bowmen start pinging away, getting some of these extra hits just to tip this army that's still got quite a lot of skirmishers who can get out of the way, even with the capital troops gone. It just needs these bowmen to reach out, touch these guys, give them a marker, and tip the army into defeat. And that was it. That's the army tipped into defeat, and a quick preview of the next year. Here's the Kushan list as well that you're seeing here. So what you've got, you can see there's 2 groups of Indians. You can see the cats. It looks like the cataphracts were split actually. So there's 2 almost identical commands of 2 cataphracts, an elephant, a couple of mixed shooters either side of it, a couple of screening bow, one of which had a couple of light horse javelin and a cavalryman, I guess to be a wingman, a bit like mine, but with a medium cavalry, or maybe that's a reserve. And then finally, an ordinary general with 4 medium cavalry bow and 2 light horse bow. So in terms of this battle, the one you've just seen, I guess the 4 medium cavalry and the 2 light horse bow and the ordinary general, they were actually strung out on it would be the left-hand side of the Kushan army on my right, and they did have an awful lot of area to cover. So it's quite easy once you start splitting up those 4 medium cavalry bow with an ordinary general on that piece of terrain to have them more than 4 apart. The light horse could easily be 8 away from the general. So that's where it becomes difficult to do it. The rest of them are, it's an army that looks like it kind of needs just to have that formation. You've got a 3 wide elephant mixed shooter, then you've got 2 cats, 2 more cats, then a 3 wide. So it's kind of locked into that quite narrow 4 cataphracts plus 6, 10 wide on a 30 wide tabletop. So it sort of needed the waterway as well, I suspect. But it's not quite as much sort of dynamism. None of those things can go whizzing off or chasing things particularly. They're kind of on their own. You're relying on those 4 medium cavalry and the 2 light horse to do an awful lot of ground covering. And as I wasn't really driving forwards on that flank, I was just trying to sort of neutralize them. They didn't really have the punch or the command and control to get through, but also they needed to be stretched in order to stop me kind of getting around the back. So that did overstretch them. The other ones were there, and they just went toe to toe with my army, which was designed to go toe to toe with almost anything like that. And as it turns out, it came out the worst. So that's the Kushan list.
Hello and welcome to the latest Madaxeman.com Army List ADLG podcast, in which I'm joined by Rick.